Sudha, kindly introduce and then you can start.
Good evening, sir. Um, I'm Sudha Joshi, Better Bet, and I'm the content lead for InnoServe Communities. And it's a pleasure to speak with you this evening. Um, we actually congratulate you on the milestone development of your institution, which we have covered, as you have just we shared with you. And we will be speaking to you today about that rebranding of your institution from IFIM Business School to Jagdish Shade School of Management. Sir, thank you again for taking the time to speak with us. So I'll begin with the
Okay.
question. Yeah. Okay, so I would just like to know if you can tell us a little more about the rebranding and what was the motivation behind it, etc. If you can just,
So actually, if you read the press release, it already covers it, but I don't mind reiterating. So we are completing our 25 years journey, and our entire journey is divided into various versions. So IFM 1.0 was between 95 and 2010.
okay,
So between 95 and 2010, IFM was run like any other management institution. Okay, more under the aegis of the curriculums created and curated by the Indian Institute of Management. So, like all the management institutions typically follow that, the PGDMs and the others follow the university system. So, we were following the IM kind of thing. So that was 2010. 2010, I joined IFM Business School and we started making radical changes to the curriculum to align it to the needs of the industry. Okay, and some of the changes that we made to the curriculum were very, very out of the box. Like we introduced wellness, we introduced research incubation, we introduced social immersion, which a lot of the people in the management space felt were not part of a management curriculum because that was not something that the rest of the institutions followed. But we felt it is required to make the student more employable. And since we adopted a mission of saying nurture holistic, socially responsible, and continuously employable professionals, we had to demonstrate employability and therefore we made those changes. Having made those changes and having been looked at by the rest of the management education space as people who are outcasts or different from the lot, we had to demonstrate our credibility of the choice that we have made. So we took on to all the quality processes. So we went up to ISO, got our ISO 9000 for governance. Then we went to SAQS, got our South Asian quality standards approved, which was the first international accreditation. And then finally went up to AACSB. Okay. And we got a AACSB in 2018. We became the sixth school in the country to get AACSB. A small school like IFM, nobody would have expected to AACSB, but we did it. So from 2010 to 2018, we call it the 2.0 journey. Okay. So that was the journey when we started, and why we went for ASCSB and SAQS was very clear. One, we wanted ratification of the choices we had made for our curriculum. And two, we wanted to start our journey towards global ranking. Okay. So in 2018, after we got ASCSB, we augmented our leadership team and the faculty. We got some good people to join us. The director became, Atish Chattopadhyay from IMT Ghaziabad took over the directorship. And he basically brought in a lot of good faculty, strengthened the faculty. And 2018, we had begun our journey towards global ranking. We had given ourselves 4 years to be globally ranked. Fortunately, this pandemic year was good for us. 2018, within 2 years, we just attempted ranking this year, not hoping to be ranked. But two of our programs got ranked by QS Global, 51 plus and 101 plus. So that actually accelerated our plan by 2 years because we were thinking this is going to happen in 2022. It happened in 2000. Now because that has happened, we have to revisit our strategy and say, how will this impact us? Okay, so now what happens is because we are getting into global ranking, to sustain and grow in global ranking becomes a new challenge. One was to get into global ranking, the other was to sustain and grow. So now we had accelerated a problem from getting into it to sustain and grow. So we started thinking from the objective is how to sustain and grow because we have inorganically got ranked. and therefore there might be disbelief in the system that are we a school worthy of ranking. So we may get headwinds in that, and next year there's a risk that we may not be ranked. So to secure the ranking, we applied our minds and we said we should do a rebranding exercise. And to use rebranding just for name change, could be a logo change or a name change, is something which would be very shallow, right? It would not be something which would demonstrate why we got globally ranked. So we started wondering, if I have to do a rebranding, what should be the most powerful way of rebranding? So we said we need people to endorse our actions and whatever we are doing. Ranking has done it. Now we want other eminent people to do that. So we had two choices. One was go to corporates, get their money and change it. Okay. But that would have got us the money. That would have got us the name. But that would have not got us a guidance and direction to grow. Because corporate would have said, okay, I'll take people from you. I will be on the governing board and I'll give you money for your infrastructure, but you do the rest. That was not enough for us to grow in the ranking, though it would have sustained, but it would have not grown. So we said we require somebody who can lead us upwards in the ranking. And obviously we knew between me and Atish that both of us had lesser experience to deliver on that. So we said, why not go to the best man in management education space who can do that? And then we did the research to find out that, then we discovered one good thing, that in the world, there is only one business school besides us now, which is named after a management academic. The rest are all named after corporates. And that business school is Drucker School of Management. None of them are other named. So we said, this is a great opportunity. We'll be the second school in the world to do it. So let's go and do it. And what better than to have an Indian academic? But that doesn't mean, we deciding in a room is one and getting Professor Jagdish Sheth to agree is another. So then we started engaging with him. He did a complete diligence on us. He's age 82, he's yet a full-time faculty, but he's age 82. At this age, nobody wants to risk his name and get it down to tie up with some institute who maligns it, right? So he had to check whether we are fly-by-night operators. He had to check whether, we had everything in us. He had to check our faculty. He did his complete check and finally gave us his consent to first be the chairman of the governing board. Because we went the other way around. We approached him not by name change. We approached him, sir, why don't you become the chairman of the governing board? Because we want to grow in the ranking, we have this aspiration. So first he agreed to become chairman. The moment he agreed to become chairman, we thought it's best to actually tell him, sir, here is the reward for becoming the chairman. We'll name the business school. Yeah. So that's how the name change happened. And if you attended the launch that we had, in that one statement that Professor Jagdish Sheth made, which really, touched the heart, was, this is a moment equivalent to the moment I was awarded the Padma Bhushan by the government of India. So for him, if this is an equivalent moment, then it endorses all our effort till now. And that's how I look at it. But what did we lose? I lost my chairmanship, but I don't have a problem with it. But I lost it and gave my promise to Professor Jagdish Sheth that, sir, it will be your direction, it will be your mind and guidance, it will be us who will work hard to make it happen. So I and Atish have committed to be his hands and legs while he'll do the thinking and give us the direction. So that's the way we go. I hope that gives you a clear understanding.
Yes, it does. So you spoke about, sustaining that, work hard. So now the next question will go into that. Now, how does the rebranding align with the goals and the aspirations of the future of your institution?
So we have always wanted to be a global school. Both Atish and I harbor that ambition, and that's why we are a very solid team. Both want to make a Indian school which is global, not backed by government, not backed by some large group. It's a bunch of professionals who can do it. And we want to set that example that many professionals can do it. We don't have to depend upon only realtors, politicians to set up educational institutions. If we put our mind to it, we can make things happen and we can do it better. So that was our aspiration. And, to get there in the global ranking and to be there, lots has to be done. So one is to get in by proving your credentials. The other is to demonstrate that you're internationally accepted. So we intend to open a campus outside of India to attract international students to go through our programs. So most likely we would be doing it in Singapore,
Mhm.
and we'll offer our 2 globally ranked programs in that campus so that we can attract the Vietnamese, the Cambodians, the Indonesians, the Chinese to create an international diversity within our student base. Once we create international diversity within student and faculty base, will we become a truly international school accepted by others. Like if you look at Singapore Management University, you look at SEEBS in China, they're very Chinese and very Singaporean. But what makes them different is the mix of student and faculty. Now, challenge in India is that not many foreign students would like to come to India and study. Means we can get the Africans, we can get the Afghanistanians, that we can get, but you won't get a diversity where we have people from Europe, people from Eastern Europe coming in. But a city like Singapore will have, because it comes more international as a city. I mean, India has to wait for a couple of more years before it becomes international. Then maybe you'll shut the campus and come back. But till that time, we'll have to operate there. So that's what we're going to do and keep pursuing our aspiration to be global. So Professor Jagdish Seth has taken our commitment. You will not let your zeal and enthusiasm for being global die just because I've come in. And I'm going to drive you guys up the wall to make sure you guys go global. So you're all set.
Right. Great. This year you have celebrated your 25th anniversary of the institution. So could you take us through some of the achievements and milestones that you're most proud of, most memorable achievements that you could
So
share?
our achievements, I mean, the biggest achievement that we have is a very successful alumni base. Okay, we recognize the fact that we didn't have the best of students coming to us input because we were not in the top tier school. But we are very proud of the fact that the average students have done well and are at good positions in companies. So that's our biggest achievement. The second biggest achievement is the recognition of all the curricular interventions that we have done, and recognized by the global space, ASESB, SAQS, EFMD, now also NBA, AICT. So we have ensured that we have tick marked everything. So you do have, let's say you have a school like ISB, okay, which is accredited by all the three EFMD, AMBA, and ISCSB, but not accredited by AICD, right? But we are one typical school that has got the blessings of the Indian government, has got the blessings of the international. So we are playing a complete Indian model in the global space. Obviously, the IIMs are also there, but IIMs are government driven, so they can make things happen for them. While we have to be regulated by the government and be on the other side of the coin. So we have to play on a thin line, and we are operating on that to demonstrate this happen. So these are some of our great achievements. Our faculty is another great. We've got fantastic faculty. I can proudly claim that our faculty probably is as good as any IIM in the country. So if you look at a 46 faculty, we have got 14 people with CXO experience. We've got people with PhDs from IITs, IIM. So we've got a very, very good mix of even people from overseas. So we've got a good faculty. We've got a great international advisory board. We've got very good governing board members. And now we've got Jagdish Seth. What else bigger than achievement than that?
Right,
So these are all our achievements.
right. I'm
And
guessing
QS
this.
Global Ranking.
Right, correct. That's great. So, how has your institution been handling the COVID-19 pandemic? You know, how have your staff and faculty, how have they been handling the COVID-19 pandemic and
So,
tackling the
this Monday,
challenges?
this Monday was the ASESB Asia Pacific Annual Conference. Okay, and I presented along with Dean Ying, who is the dean of SEEPS, China, a China European International Business School, which was a collaboration of EFMD, Chinese government, INSEAD to set up that and rank 5 on FT. So I was presenting with him, Yuan Ding, that's his name, and I presented risk mitigation, sharing experience of risk mitigation during COVID-19. Okay. I want to show you one slide of what IFM did in COVID-19. So if you allow me to share my screen,
Yes.
I'll be happy to do that. Oops. It's not allowing me to share. Is it?
Rahul, can you please, give the handle to share?
Yes, sir. There will be shared.
Rahul, have you given the rights to share?
Yes, sir.
You have given the rights? One sec. I'm just opening the presentation. Give me a moment. One sec. Huh? Shit. What happened? I'm just trying to locate the presentation. Just give me a moment.
No problem, sir. Please take your time.
Can you see my screen?
Yes. Yes, we can see the screen.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you look at this, huh? Look at this slide. Can you see it?
Yes,
You see the IFM Business School's performance COVID-19?
correct. Yes.
So you look at the number of online classes we delivered, 2,743. Number of online examinations, 171. Number of collaborative super specializations. So these are the sessions we did at Darden Business School and ESCP Europe for our students, 280. The number of virtual wellness classes that we did during this time, 290. And remember, we had only 200, it's 200 plus working days since the time we have been in lockdown.
Correct.
46 guest lectures, 23 internship viva voces. Look at the number of knowledge webinars, 153. Convocation 1, 3 registrations, 3 program registrations, 1 industry interface in which we had 1,000 participants, 2 global ranking debuts, 34 capstone projects, 292 industry internships, 7 research papers published, out of which 2 went in A category by our faculty, 4 faculty development programs, 2 done by international faculty, 100% placement, and 2 new programs launched. So that's been the scorecard of IFM.
Wow. That's very impressive. Very impressive.
And all this credit goes to our faculty, which really worked hard. So does that answer your question?
Yes, it pretty much does. Yes. Pretty impressive track record during this crisis that we've been experiencing.
No, I think our faculty really worked very hard. In
Mhm.
fact, Atish used to have faculty meetings every Wednesday, which used to so we did a lot of things to ensure. See, first thing that we did was decide that this is not going away. So a lot of
Right.
people thought, let's prepone the summer vacation and then we'll see what happens. Maybe it's just a 2 week. We first thought like that. Then we said, what if it doesn't happen? So he said, let's assume this is going to stay. Now let's start working on how we'll, what all we need to do. So we made a corrective measures. We said we're not going to go to scrap a timetable. We'll continue our timetable. Whatever equipment we need to provide, a faculty will provide. Whatever connectivity we need to provide, you'll provide. Whatever training needs to be provided for online delivery, will provide. We'll talk to the corporates to have work from home internship. So when we are talking to corporates were also saying, why are you calling so early? It'll anyway go away. We said, no, it doesn't matter. We're just saying that in case it doesn't go away, you please secure our students. People who had got placement offers, we called to corporate and told them, please, this can stretch into a bad zone. Please, our students have already done 2.5-month internship with you. Please confirm their placements. So that time, early on, nobody expected it to go long. So they confirmed. And all of those actions worked so well for us. We had zero withdrawal of offers. And everything worked well just because of one thought. What if COVID-19 does not go? Like everybody thought, wish it away. We thought, yeah, we'll wish it away. But let's make the assumption it will not go away. And that changed the entire dynamics of a faculty. We took our financial expense control measures to ensure that, all our payouts are in time. Nothing goes awry. So we went into for 1 month, we were into crisis analysis and crisis management mode. Rather than saying, okay, let's have a holiday, we'll wait. Nothing can be done. We worked the hardest in the month, March month, we worked the hardest. After that, as the lockdown extended, we eased out while others had to sweat it out. And while we were easing out, the pressure on the corporate students was more from a lot of other places. But we had already decided and announced. A lot of our students protested immediately saying that, why are you doing online courses? Give us holiday like others. We said, nothing doing. We are giving you online classes. We'll also do online proctored exams. And you have to appear exam. You are going to get progress. So 2 terms we finished through online proctored exams, everything we did.
So in a way, seeing the trend of what was happening, you were able to prepare in that way. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. So did
only
you,
because of that one simple thought, what if
it
COVID-19
doesn't
does
go?
not go?
Yeah, right. It's now become the new normal. We have to just live with it. Okay.
See, worst case, what would have happened to us? Suppose it would have gone away, it would have come back to normal.
Of course. Exactly. Right.
Our effort would have gone wasted. Maybe a faculty would have cursed, why did you make us work hard? Maybe you would have done one celebration and got rid of it. But the fact that we work today, every faculty feels so motivated because they are not carrying any burden. They don't have any backlog. Right? So that's like, even including participate in global ranking. So the global ranking opened in March end. Again, we have to take a decision. Do we go this year or not go this year? We said, let's go this year. Why should we deter from a plan? So we just kept at it. That's it.
Sometimes you just have to keep at it.
But you require the cooperation of faculty, for making this decision. This can't be made at one end and driven down. It has to be collective decision where everybody applies. We had a lot of arguments, a lot of fights, everything we had.
Right.
We went through the worst in March. But after that, we went through the worst for 17 days. But after that, the remaining 200 days was smooth sailing. Otherwise, that 17 days would have become, 200 days of pain.
So your faculty was able to adjust and adapt to
absolutely
technology and everything that
was
being used?
So, fortunately, we were using technology 4 years earlier. So they were already used to teaching online and stuff like that. That was not a problem. But we augmented their learning. So we got some of the top faculty from State University of New York, etc., to do lectures on how to teach, how to use Zoom effectively, how to use breakout rooms, how to use Teams, where Teams is good, where Zoom is good, where Impartus is good. We got our Impartus was a solution which we were using for online delivery. We got it evaluated by a faculty who is well known for online teaching. And he came up with the conclusion that, look at the tools differently depending on the type of pedagogy you're using. So Impartus is good if you're using this pedagogy. Zoom is good if you're using this pedagogy. So all that went into our faculty and we enabled all the 3 systems for a faculty to use. So whatever they felt comfortable, like if I put a faculty and give him a wrong tool, the faculty, if it's not comfortable with the tool and not comfortable to teach, then his performance will drop by 50%. But if the faculty is comfortable with the tool, then the performance goes 100%. So that's what we did.
Okay, so I'll just move on to the next question. So, yeah. So, how should Indian management schools set standards to meet or exceed the global benchmarks? In your opinion, how is your institution working to do that?
See, to get into the global space, to get into the global scale, the minimum eligibility is to get globally accredited.
Right.
So either you get an AMBA, EFMD, or a ASCSB accreditation. That is enough for you to be qualifying for a global ranking. Right now, there are only 13 schools which are ASCSB accredited. And if I include EFMD and ASCSB and AMBA accreditation, they won't cross 24
Mm, okay.
all over the country. So out of 3,500. So there are, and I know that there are about 50 schools in pipeline, but they're all going to be three. And because of the pandemic, everything is going to get delayed,
Yeah.
and it's going to be like 3 to 4 years before they get it. So that is the first thing. And once you go through those standards, you know the rules of the game, global game.
Mhm.
See, we all understand the rules of the Indian game. NBA is there, NAC is there. We understand that. To play in the global arena, you need to understand their accreditation standards. So once you play that, the rules are very, very clearly laid out. What you need to do, what type of faculty, what, quantity of research is less than quality of research. In India, NBA is how many papers your faculty has presented, right? So if you produce every institution launches their own journal.
Mm.
NAC will ask you a question: do you have your own journal?
Mm.
ASCSB, AFMD, AMBA don't care a damn whether you have a journal or not. They say, have your faculty presented in ABDC classified journals, Scopus index journals, which are rated as A or B. So they are conscious more on quality than quantity. You may have 5 papers, doesn't matter. But even if you have 5 papers, they believe that you're moving towards the quality trajectory. So their criteria is slightly different, and when you go through the accreditation process, you get acclimatized with the rules of the game.
So, what are the initiatives your institution is taking relating to employability oriented curriculum? And
So 2 years ago, we had done a joint exercise with NHRDN for creating a curriculum 4.0. So we had actually done a survey of more than about 800 odd senior executives, including CXOs, CEOs, everybody, collected that data. And then we had done 3 qualitative discussions in Mumbai, Delhi, and Bangalore. And taking their insights, we had created a curriculum which was for beyond tomorrow, companies' requirement beyond tomorrow. And the basis of the questionnaire was the World Economic Forum essential skills of tomorrow. So they had identified 10 skills. We had basically customized those 10 skills, put it into a survey, collected data from the people, whether these are relevant to India, then had a qualitative discussion to identify when they say relevance, what does it really mean in terms of curriculum term. And we had created a curriculum, which we had also presented in the annual conference of ASCSB in Edinburgh. We were invited to present that because it was inaugurated by Tom Robinson, who's the president of ASCSB when he was in India, and he liked it. He said, why don't you present it there? So he presented there as well. So that was a journey towards employability. And as part of our curriculum review, we review our curriculum architecture every 3 years, but we review our course syllabus every year. So curriculum architecture means how many credits are practice, how many credits are theory, what is one definition of a credit, etc. What kind of specializations we'll offer. And syllabus is about each course outline that we review every year. And we have a very powerful board of studies, which consists of IIM directors, people from abroad who actually review each course outline and give us input, including corporates. So that's a continuous process that goes on in the system. So then we have, things like long tenure internship, which is 4.5 months. We have a corporate mentoring program where every student is given a corporate mentor. Then we have a social immersion program. So all of these programs are enhancing the employability continuously.
Yeah.
Like I can tell you right now, in this pandemic, we have got 80 placement offers done. And our placement salaries are practically up by 25 to 30% this year. When we were expecting everything to go down,
Right.
it's changed for us.
Right.
So we're good. in that sense. You know, whatever we have done in the past and whatever effort our faculty makes on a continuous basis, I can assure you of one thing: my faculty works real hard on our students. It's because we don't have the students who have such a high IQ that they can deliver. So we have to really chase them to death to make them pre-read, to do their assignments, to come prepared to class. It's an effort. We do supervised learning sessions. In fact, the homework that is given to students are done. We have another class called supervised learning sessions in which our TAs make them do it. We don't allow them to go to hostel only. They do it here. So otherwise they go to hostel, they'll again start getting onto Netflix and other stuff. Even on Zoom, when we did supervised learning sessions. So we would tell them, okay, classes you have attended, now come on to Zoom and do your work. And they would question, quiz, are you doing or not? And then prepare them for the next class. So it's a lot of effort from our faculty that goes in to make this happen. And actually it's the effort that makes the employability. It's not the curriculum along with the overall experience of learning is what will make the employability.
So I'm just coming now to the last question. Can you tell us what's next? What are the initiatives, the plans that you have in store for the coming year?
This is it. No more initiatives. I've already said. That's it.
That's it. Okay.
We are like chock-a-block till now. We can't add one more.
Right.
initiative.
Right. Great. So that brings us to the end of.
Thank you, Sudha.
Yes. Thank you so much, sir. Chandan, sir, you can.
Great, sir. Yeah, thank you so much, sir. So exciting, to listen from you, the kind of, your footsteps, your milestones, small institutes, covered your milestone of 25 years of your journey and making a landmark achievement in the B schools of India, sir, and getting accredited with the international standards. And here, IFIM comes with representation of how a Indian business school can also be of global standards. And definitely, sir, bringing Mr. Jagdish Seth on board and, renaming of this institute, matlab, sir, वो कोई नहीं चाहता. Nobody does that. It needs a very big heart, a very big soul, and a very clear vision. And वो तो I'm appreciated, sir, and very, I guess as you told that in India में ये पहला institute है, and maybe worldwide it's 2 institutes, which you said that.
In fact, Chandan, all
Yes,
the
sir.
management educators in the world, the best schools, are
Yeah,
deans
yeah.
from India. And we yet don't have Indian. So you look at Shrikant Datta, Dean of Harvard Business School.
Yeah,
You look at
yeah.
Deepak Jain, Dean of Seeds. All these guys are Pankaj Gemawat. I can name so many. Sunil Kumar, Booth.
Mm.
All these guys are Indian deans. So the world over, when you go international, they say, boss, we are run by the Indian mafia. But when you look at the global ranking, you don't see an Indian school. So it is so unfortunate. So we felt that at least give them credit because they are redefining management education standards.
Yeah, yeah.
So we have named Jagdish said maybe somebody is going to name a school Shrikant Datta School of Management. I'll be so happy if somebody does
Why
it.
not?
And it should go on. Like, that's
Go
our
on.
that's our contribution to the world. Why should we not talk about it?
Why not? So yeah. You see, the legends and the players, like you name any big shots who is maybe leading the Google or the Microsoft are going abroad. So by this small initiative and small effort, this is a kind of a revert or a backward, keep bringing those people back to country, maybe by just the sake of name of the institute. So that's
So, if you look at, I'll give you a classic example, Satya Nadella. He was from
Yeah.
Manipal Institute of Technology,
yeah.
and then he went to Microsoft, and then he went to University of Chicago, Booth School.
Yeah.
Okay, the dean of Booth was Sunil Kumar. The best faculty of Booth is Raghuram Rajan. So, Indians taught India to make him the CEO of Microsoft. But in his
is the irony.
biodata, it is written University of Chicago. India is missing.
Mm,
Yeah, that's the irony.
That's-
That's
yeah.
the irony. And that needs to be changed. That's needs. And COVID has taught many lessons. It has opened many chapters now, and
Correct.
people are coming back. People are coming back to understand the origin and maybe the efforts of the government of India and our honorable Prime Minister also to be Atmanirbhar, to make in India and so many other plans which the government is doing. It can all be possible not only because of the efforts of ministry and government, but also with the stakeholders like you and us.
Absolutely. It's our equivalent duty.
Equal in duty, sir. So our best wishes, sir, and keep
Thank you,
going,
Chandan.
keep setting up the milestones, sir, and
Thank
keep us
you.
giving opportunity to interview more and more in coming years.
Thank you. And a very happy Dasera to both of you. Have a
Yes, sir.
good
And
Yeah,
same to
morning.
you.
All right.
same to you, sir.
Okay.
Bye bye. Bye bye,
Bye-bye.
sir. Bye.
Bye.